Live from Wrestling 911 Studios. This time we're actually in Tampa, Florida. I'm your host, Snowman Mother Truckin' Jones, and we're here to tell you all about independent wrestling, wrestling in general, all the greatest things about wrestling. Today's particular topic is the top 10 super heavyweights in wrestling history. Going back to the annals of history, not the annals of history. We're going deep, deep, deep into the muddy, murky water. That is wrestling history, and we're going to give you the top 10 super heavyweights. We define it, guys weighing over 350 pounds. We're going to list off guys like Yokozuna, Big John Studd, Big Van Vader, and all the likes. Okay, here's the part about this that's going to be somewhat controversial. 10 guys, but we're omitting all the tall folks. Essentially, Khali, just because he's tall, unless he weighs over 350 pounds, in his case he does, we're not including him. So Kevin Nash not going to be in there. Kane's not going to be in there. The Undertaker's not going to be in there. Glenn Jacobs not going to be in there. We're talking about big men. Number 10 coming in, rounding up the big men, and he's round, he's large and in charge. His real name, Christopher Paliz. Yep, that's right. That is King Kong Bundy. The guy who started moving, he also is the namesake for the TV show Married with Children. That's right, the Bundy family came after this guy. King Kong Bundy, number 10. You know, here's a couple things. I'm going to give you some history about King Kong Bundy. Ring names included Big Daddy Bundy, Boom Boom Bundy, Chris Cannon, bet you didn't know that. Not Chris Canyon, but he was also known as Chris Canyon, who's another wrestler's name. He was Crippler Canyon, he was King Kong Bundy, and he was Man Mountain Cannon Jr. Okay, folks, 6'4", billed at 6'6", 458 pounds, sometimes billed at 440. He's from Atlantic City, New Jersey, trained by Larry Sharp in the Monster Factory. He's a monster. Follow him at Twitter. On Twitter, he's actually a pretty funny guy. And you gotta love the fact that this guy demanded 5 counts. That's pretty freaking awesome. He was part of the Heenan family. He challenged Hulk Hogan in a cage match at WrestleMania 2. Lost that match, but he's got a great history. WrestleMania 1, he beat Special Delivery Jones in record time. WrestleMania 2, he main evented it. And WrestleMania 3, critics would argue that he literally killed a little person in a match with, it was Hillbilly Jim. So he's professional actor, stand-up comedian, professional wrestler, King Kong Bundy, and frankly, I thought the guy was in the movie Popeye, but that was just some other big bald guy, I think. Check him out. Check out probably his crowning achievement was WrestleMania 2 against Hulk Hogan. Also check him out in WrestleMania 1 where he just crushes Special Delivery Jones in several seconds. If you actually counted, it's more than they say, so I don't want to say, but it was the record shortest match in WrestleMania history for many years. A feat that now, I believe, gets held by Sheamus in his defeat of Bryan Daniel. So King Kong Bundy, number 10. Number 9. Another big guy, billed at 6'9", 457 pounds, born in 1960 from South Carolina. It's the One Man Gang. Came into wrestling as Crusher Broomfield, then the One Man Gang was once known as Panama Gang, UEI Gang, and you knew him as Akeem. When he was in the WWE, he was billed at 6'10", 480 pounds. Just a giant, had a mohawk, cool guy, the African Dream. Literally, myself, Snowman Jones from Wrestling911.com, I went out in Detroit as a little kid as the One Man Gang for Halloween. I had the fake beard, which kind of looked like blackface. Didn't mean it to be racist. He was from the deepest, darkest of Africa, after all. And I had the African shirt, had the walk, had the hat, had the strut. He was an amazing wrestler. So, 480 pounds, number 9, George Gray, the man known as the One Man Gang, number 9. So who do you think's number 8? That's right, folks. Big John Studd. I'm not going to make you wait. Passed away in 1995, born 1948. It was interesting to me. He's 6'10", 367 pounds. They feuded him against Andre the Giant, and early in his career, excuse me, not early in his career, but early in the WWF's national program, he ran as, let's see, he was the heel and Andre the Giant came after him as the face. Later on, when we returned to the WWE, he was the face and Andre was the heel. So they pulled the old switcheroo. Big John Studd, trained by my great uncle Killer Kowalski. That's right, Snowman Jones said it here. Listen up. And also, folks, check out Wrestling911.com. That's the place where you're going to find the host of all these shows, Snowman Jones. He wrestled as the Masked Superstar. He wrestled as Captain USA, Big John Studd, Chuck O'Connor, the Executioner #2, Masked Superstar #2, the guy loved #2, no offense, not a shitty joke there, and the Giant Studd as part of the Giant Machine. So he wrestled under a mask a bit, real big guy, trained under Killer Kowalski, started his wrestling career in the WWF, Worldwide Wrestling Federation, as Chuck O'Connor, a tremendous athlete, former WWF Tag Team Championship holder with Killer Kowalski as the Masked Executioners. Bet you didn't know that about this legend. Wrestled as a heel under Bobby Heenan. And you remember the body slam match where Andre the Giant body slammed him? I think that was WrestleMania 1. Had a gimmick where if Andre body slammed him, Andre got $10,000 of Bobby Heenan's money, and Andre threw that out to the crowd, and something that made Andre the Giant, cemented him as the true giant of wrestling, and cemented him as a tremendous babyface, which only made the heel turn Andre the Giant that much better. So Big John Studd, a very important part of wrestling history. He's number 8 on our list of super heavyweights, folks weighing over 350 pounds in wrestling history. Number 7, Haystacks fucking Calhoun. That's right, William Calhoun. He pretty much just wrestled as Haystacks Calhoun. Advertised well over 600 pounds. I know a lot of times I've seen video saying he's 601, but he was a legit 600-pounder. He'd eat a dozen eggs for breakfast is something that people always talked about, and that was at age 14. Weighed 300 pounds, ate a dozen eggs for breakfast at age 14. He was 6'1", just a tremendous wrestler from the golden age of wrestling. If you don't know anything about William D. Calhoun, born in 1934, had diabetes by the time he passed away in 1989. I recall watching TV shows about him, talking about his great legacy, and unfortunately by the end of his career, much like Kamala, had his legs amputated, the diabetes got the best of him, but Haystacks Calhoun, rounding out number 7, and he was just a fun guy to watch. If you get a chance, look on YouTube, find some of Haystacks' amazing matches. He laid the groundwork for the Giants like Gorilla Monsoon, Andre the Giant, One Man Gang, and King Kong Bundy. Next up, pulling in the list, number 6, we're going to go all the way overseas to another Haystack. This guy is 6'11". He did spend some time in WCW near the end of his life as Loch Ness. That's the 685-pound monster, nearly 7 foot tall, Giant Haystacks. Billed as Luke McMasters when I used to watch him overseas. Folks, if you watched him in WCW, you didn't really get to see the real Haystacks. Giant Haystacks, also known as the Loch Ness Monster, Loch Ness, and Luke McMasters. He's of Irish descent, and he was a hell of an athlete back in his, 1960s, 1970s era. By the time he came to WCW in the 90s, he could hardly stand up in the ring. He was nearly 700 pounds. He was dying of cancer, and he wound up dying of cancer in 1998, November 29th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm quite the wrestling historian. Billed at 48 stones, which to you and me is 670 pounds. Okay, folks? He's a big, big man. And of course, depending on the day, he would, different people weigh him at different amounts. So if my numbers fluctuate a little, it just depends on the day he weighed in. He did have a little bit of a feud with Hulk Hogan. He did have a match, and I think it was at a Halloween Havoc against The Big Show. WCW billed it as their Giant versus Giant match. He was part of the Dungeon of Doom, brought over as just another monster. Folks probably remember him overseas with his long-standing feud with a guy who didn't make our list. That's Big Daddy. And if you are a wrestling historian, you want to learn more about wrestling, read about Big Daddy. I got to watch him in some of his, what wasn't Stampede. I forget the name of his wrestling organization overseas in England, but those two went at it month after month after month after month. They were huge draws in the United Kingdom, so make sure you check out Big Daddy. But the guy rounding out number 6 in our top 10 is the near 700-pound, near 7-foot-tall Luke McMaster's Giant Haystacks. Folks, make sure you're checking out and subscribe. Hit the little button on the bottom of our channel. We've given numbers 10 through number 6, top 10 heaviest wrestlers, top 10, I have to reword this, sorry folks, top 10 super heavyweights of all time. It isn't based on weight. Giant Haystacks rounds out number 6. Check out Wrestling 911. See the other 5. Talk to you later.